Welcome in to another episode of Live Good DyNasty. If you're listening on a podcast forum, we're new here. This is Live Good DyNasty. We focus on fantasy football, dynasty mostly, but we mix in a lot of redraft during the season, go year round with a little bit heavier focus on dynasty on the off season. But my name is Arlen. We've got Nate here as well, and you can also catch us if you'd like on video format on YouTube, where we are going for our modest goal of 100 subscribers. So join us on that journey there. And then if you are listening on podcast form, the things that help us and help the channel out are rating us and leaving a review. But either way, today we're doing an extra little episode for a quick, some waiver pieces. And as if you're listening to this after your waivers have run, just look for some of these guys. Maybe they're still kind of laying out there. Maybe some people have dropped it. A good rule of thumb for Wednesdays, every Wednesday, look at not only who was picked up in your league, but who was dropped in your league so that they could make room, because you'll find some hidden gems there. I bet you in half the leagues, Gus Edwards is there, and he's still a good stash in my opinion. But again, I'm Arlen. This is Nate. Have I done this yet? I haven't done this. Let's do this part. What's up, Nate? How you doing?
Doing good, man. I'm just happy to fire through some positional decision making here because I know that there are some crazy things happening in the NFL, and it's really hard to get a read on what anyone's going to do in a given week. So we're going to do our best to help guide you there.
Yeah, and we'll take a look in two different sections here. It's a lot quicker to go through dynasty waivers, especially if you have as many roster spots as we do in our dynasty. I think we have IR, we have taxi, and then we also have, I think, a good 32 or so, 35 spots, something like that. We have a lot of waiver roster spots, a big bench, because we have 4 flex. So a lot of these players just are not on our waiver wire. So I have a few players. You might have a couple more. I'm not sure, Nate, but running through it, somebody to check in both redraft and dynasty. But in dynasty, they're rostered in only 62% of leagues. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's a good pickup and a stash, because he's on the IR, but for personal reasons. I think he said I read that there was he had post-traumatic stress syndrome on something, so he needed just that mental break. So he's not going to come back. My point is, he's not coming back. Once he's back, he's back. And targeting a 5, they can really, if you hear of a week that he's probably coming back, there's not going to be most likely a physical setback that you have to worry about, or a ramp up period in terms of like dealing with the injury. So they're in a situation where they are starting the Crocodile Hunter steal. So you can bet that they're going to try a couple different things out. That being said, Steele is. I'm going to mention him just because I want to use the thumbnail. But Carson Steele, he took a lot. I mean, he didn't get his. I don't think he got his touchdown, but he had 17 carries. He had a couple targets. He looks like it. If he's available he's not available in your dynasty, but if he's in your redraft, I would throw that out there. But either way, Clyde should be, or there's a good chance that Clyde is there for you.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Right.
I think it's going to get a little muddy back there, especially with P. Ryan catching passes. They're going to try to figure it out, but CEH could definitely land the role. It was his before. So I think that's a possibility. And Pacheco's going to be a long while.
Yes.
Broken
Even when
fibula or
he's
something.
back,
Does that hurt?
a little bit, yeah. And I think even when he's back, it's going to hurt still. And it'll be a slow ramp up. We've talking about backups. We've got Emmanuel Wilson. I stashed him in redraft in a couple leagues. And he's 63% owned at Dynasty. Emmanuel Wilson is a really great pickup, the backup for Jacobs in Green Bay. And if this last week is a trend of anything, he's closer to it. We were just talking about in the last episode of Braylon Allen, where he could still just eat into it and have a flex-worthy start and a huge upside if Jacobs goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got 24 points on the season, even with Jacobs out there. He's got a receiving touchdown on the year already. So definitely someone worth stashing. Or even if you're in desperation and you're crazy like us and you have a million roster spots and for some reason you're able to get your hands on him, you may have him in your fourth flex position. Um,
Yeah, yeah, he's startable if you have four flexes like us sickos.
yeah,
Speaking of a deep grab, but he's 71% a roster, so it's not it's not really that. Just check if he's there because the person who might take a while to come back uh, s- is Christian McCaffrey, as he's seeing a European specialist now. Um, the reason I heard was because Christian McCaffrey can get a higher dose of the medicine he needs outside of America. I don't know if I haven't vetted that, but that's what I heard some people chatting about. And either way, Isaac Guerendo is the backup um, now, so he's the number two until CMC gets back. So if Jordan Mason anything happens to him, who he's taking an extreme amount of work, then Grando would be the next man up. So that's somebody that you should stash as well. So the three that we mentioned that were stashes that are probably owned: Clyde, Emmanuel Wilson, and Guerndo. I I think I have Clyde on here twice, but I think the somebody who's a little less by a little less I mean about 70% less owned in Dynasty, and so he's 3% owned. He's probably on your waiver. Um, Bidet is how you pronounce it. So Tyler Bidet. I really liked Batty, but I guess that's not
that's
what it
not how I
is.
wanted to pronounce it.
Yeah, but this Bidet has been disrespected. May I say, flushed down the toilet of dynasty rosters, and he's on your waiver. So I would blast him right into your roster on your bench if you have him available to you. He's a good stash. He's for Denver. He's a running back for Denver. If you don't know, and they have a mess right now. Javonte Williams isn't the guy. Um, the rookie's name is escaping me. The other rookie, he's coming back from injury, but
Audric
he's coming
Estime.
back soon. Estime, thank you. And then you got McLaughlin, who hasn't been able to carve out a significant role. So I think this is a great stash.
Sure. Yeah, I see that. He's he's a practice squad guy that's going to bounce back and forth probably throughout the year, depending on what their roster needs. But I mean, he did participate in the game. He had 9 attempts this past week, so they need something because Denver not looking pretty. Um, right. So whatever they can do to get some firepower out there is going to be huge.
Oh, this one was a lie. I wrote the wrong percentage down for this next one, but Jalen Naylor is another person that is in that probably rostered category. But you should check just in case he's 69% rostered. Um, but you should check if in your dynasty to see if he is there.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Naylor, I think is probably. I was surprised to see him on your list. I didn't fact check your percentages, but he he's someone that is looking good out there. You had a lot of pass catchers coming back over the next few weeks, so and Jordan Addison. Eventually, you're going to get Hawkinson back in there. Um, so what that's going to look like, we don't know. But I think Jalen Naylor is showing a great relationship with Sam Darnold that he's gotten to build that the other guys didn't. So it's not like there's a built-in relationship with the QB these other guys will be coming back to. So a lot to be said about that connection, and potentially could maintain.
Yeah, and that roster percentage that I had originally was very off. It was 22%, but that is for redraft. So as we transition over into redraft, unless there's somebody that you want to call out for dynasty that we haven't already spoken to.
No, I think that covers the
Cool.
bases.
All right, so 22% rostered. Uh, for me, I'm not throwing. This is a. I always throw a bunch of these guys at the end if there's someone I'm willing to let go on my roster, and then if I don't get the people I'm actually bidding for, I'll put a $0 or $1 bid in. This is that for me, so I don't think I'll get him because he has had a few really good weeks, but Addison's coming back, so I don't see this continuing. Um, I don't see Sam Darnold supporting Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Naylor, and I still think that Addison is above him on the pecking order. Um, so I would throw something out there, but I wouldn't spend too much on him. Do you feel any differently?
I know. I think he could sustain a little bit as those guys ramp up, but yeah, it is going to be a rental for sure. So I wouldn't spend too much on him.
Quentin Johnson, we talked a lot more in our other episode that posted at the same time as this one. So if you want to get deeper dive into it, we were really at a. I think we were both kind of leaning to a. There's a lot going on there, and it's messy with Herbert injured, then Kansas City next week, and then a bye week. So if you are such a great team that you can stash somebody for a while, and you believe in Quentin Johnson, go for him. But he's 62% rostered, and people believe in him, so you might end up having to pay up for it. And it's not a. It, I forget where you stand, but it's not a dollar amount. I'm really what I have to pay for him, probably 15-20%. I'm not willing to pay that to get him.
For sure. Agreed with you there. But yeah, if you can stash and your team can hold up for it, might be worth checking out. But there right now, if you need someone immediately, there's obviously going to be a lot more guys from wide receiver perspective. A couple of guys that I don't think we have on the list. We talked about Quentin Johnson. We talked about Juwan Jennings. If he's still out there for whatever reason, go get him. But people might have gotten wise, and by now you'll probably just spend buku bucks to land Juwan Jennings if he's still available. So
Yeah,
probably not worth it. You can listen to more of that on our last episode as well. Someone we didn't talk about, who is kind of surprising to talk about, but I'm happy to since he's on my dynasty team. Wan'Dale Robinson has quietly garnered some attention in that
yeah,
offense.
good call out.
So I think
Yeah,
Wan'Dale Robinson, no one in the world trusts Daniel Jones going into the season, and I'm not saying that he is him or anything like
Mhm.
that. Don't get it twisted. I don't want this
All right.
to be a meme later. But uh, if you're looking for somebody, Malik Neighbors is drawing so much attention that Wan'Dale Robinson is an option out there if you are in a league where you are desperate at wide receiver. He's gotten some work for sure over the
Yeah,
last in week 3 alone, I believe. Let me see here.
yeah, he had 8 targets, 7 receptions. He's got 24 on the targets on the year. And in redraft, redraft doesn't matter. In half point PPR, he uh, he scored 9.6. I think in every week it was over 10 in full PPR. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think you're right. I think that's like he's 35% rostered, so he's probably available in your league. I wouldn't spend a lot on him, but I think that he's a great flex option, just a depth piece to your roster. And you're right, Neighbors has commanded an insane amount of targets. He is, I think, what I saw. I forgot the exact stat. I think since 2005, so almost 20 years. Neighbors has had the best rookie start of a wide receiver in almost 20 years, and teams are going to go more. They believe that now, and they're going to go more and more aggressively with Neighbors, and they already have been, and he's been able to get around it. But that being said, they gotta try to stop it. And Wendell Robinson seems to be the second to Neighbors for Jaden or Daniel Jones. I am sorry, Jaden.
wow.
I don't want to put that
Wrong,
on him.
wrong NFC East team. Don't put that kind of juju on him, dude. Are there any other wide receivers you're considering before we take a look at like running backs or tight ends?
Yeah, you know what? Romeo Dobbs is a good name to look at. So I think any of the wide receivers that are available on your like Wicks, Dobbs, everyone else is probably owned, but for Jordan Love is coming back, and you're even though um, what's the backup Malik
Malik Neighbor, no, but no.
Malik Wash? No, what is his name?
We're horrible today. Malik Willis.
Willis. Willis did all right last week. I think he's been a very great backup for Jordan, but these other guys just get value. Wicks probably has a higher upside. Dobbs is a great safe bet, but Jordan Love is coming back, so these guys will be next week's waiver wire grabs. So if you have the room and ability to grab next week's waiver grabs this week, then do so.
Yeah,
Another one is Darnell Mooney. They seem to want to get him involved. He seems to be the one of the main focuses of the offense, even with those other top names. So we went deeper into that one in our other conversation, but it's more of a what if Pitts or Moon or Pitts or Drake London or Bijan. What if they're not in the passing game? The stars that we thought they were going to be coming into it, then that opens up the discussion for somebody else. And that's really what that mental block was for considering Mooney before that. Um, I think I think that's all from a wide receiver. We have only one tight end that I can think of, so maybe two. So I'll throw out that, and then we can hit running backs, which is the beef of it. Cole Kmet, if you need a start, he's got a decent looking schedule coming up. Mike Gesicki is another. I don't really. We talked a little bit more about those guys on the other, but not a huge. I don't think it's a really big conversation, but the big conversation is everyone's hurting at tight end, and if you need a start, you can do that, or maybe even Strange from Jacksonville. Um, Anybody else that you want to throw out?
I mean, if Conklin's out there anywhere,
Do you want that though?
fine. What's that? I
I
don't.
mean,
I
Conklin is out there. He's rostered in 15%, but you've got 2 targets the first week, 2 targets the second week, and he happened to have a great week last week. I don't think I
yeah,
trust it, but if you want to get down and dirty, you can go with a Conklin.
yeah, for sure. Other than that, there's not really anyone else for trusting. So if you're trying to figure out life at tight end, good luck and best of luck to you.
Here are all of the running backs that we're going to mention are under 50% owned in redraft. Rico Dowdle, I don't know if he's trending up or more importantly if Zeke is trending down, but Rico Dowdle I think is a great pickup. He's 49% owned. I would go after that if you need some depth in it. I did in one that I have multiple injured running backs. Dowdle is one of the people I started this last week, and it seems like it's gonna trend that way. I don't think he's going to be a star, but I don't think you need him to be.
Yeah, for sure. Couple folks that we talked about in our last episodes, if you want to dig a little bit deeper, but a couple of rookies that I would be trying to go get off of waivers if they're available for you under 50%. Braylon Allen and Bucky Irving for different situations. Braylon's being used now, and is being used side by side, and is a lock it down number 2 if something happens to Brees. And then for Bucky Irving, he's on the ramp up. 22 points on the season so far, and I think he has a chance to overtake Rashad by the time we get to midseason. Rashad White. So I think both of those rookies are great people to pick up off of waivers if they're available for you.
Yeah, I would say both of them are about 45% in the same category. We've got Tank Bigsby, who is at 24% owned, and that's another good backup running back that uh, seems to have taken a step forward in year 2, even though Estime is still the person there to own.
ETN.
Etienne, Estime. I don't know. As I said it, yeah, thank you. Etienne is still a person to own there, but Tank is obviously more of a threat now, and more of the person that he became the person you can point at and say, if Etienne goes down, he's taking this over. And so that's always important with anybody that you're stashing there. And if any year is a good year to stash these backup running backs, it's this one. Same category, 7% owned though. Somebody that I almost started this week. I did grab in a couple of leagues. I think that you should as well. Emmanuel Wilson out of Green Bay. Jacobs just looked like he was starting to get banged up a little bit. They used him a lot, and then I don't know if it's a new norm or Jacobs going to heal up in it, and Emmanuel Wilson is just a good backup. But in Green Bay, 7% owned, somebody that you can throw at the back of your bench, start him if you are in a pinch in flex, but really just there in case Jacobs goes down. If you're the Jacobs owner, though, I would absolutely pick him up.
Yeah, 100% if you haven't already. Already shown signs of life, even with Jacob still there taking snaps.
7% owned, another one. We got Roshan Johnson. This one's kind of different. Like, you can go after Roshan Johnson. He took a few carries. He was involved in the passing game. This is kind of like Regal Dowdle. I almost called him Rico Dowdle, where I don't know if he's trending up or Zeke is trending down for him. For Roshan Johnson, I don't know if he's trending up or Swift is one of the worst running backs in football ever. And I think that's more of the case. And you're just looking for someone to have an edge at this point. So if you want to kind of stash somebody to see if maybe he does turn the corner there, then he's a good stash and hope. I wouldn't play him this week, but you can drop him if and pick up somebody, whoever we're telling you to pick up next week. If that's not the case, but he's a good stash, I think.
Yeah. He's got a shot out there. I'm running away from DeAndre Swift right now if that's who I have, and he's just showing he's not the guy. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
So Chiefs running backs, you've got Hunt that got promoted to the active roster. You've got Steele, who took a lot of work, even with Pirine there. He took a lot of work, and he's a bruiser, and there's a good chance that he remains the guy. But I don't know if Hunt has it anymore. Steele is probably owned already.
Yeah.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming back, so that's somebody that you can also stash just to get ahead of it, because next week that's going to be the person who's owned, who's on the waiver wires of like, oh, maybe it's going to be him. So trying to figure out that Kansas City situation, I feel, is for the teams that have the luxury of a couple extra spots and you don't know who to pick up. Might as well. But I think that's somebody who's going to be a bigger pickup next week. So if you can get ahead of it, you can get ahead of it.
I don't have any other running backs unless you got something.
No, but I don't. But I would look for, and these are very unlikely ones, but like Brooks is pretty heavily rostered. But Brooks, Gus Edwards hasn't been doing great, and he's probably going to be dropped. And Chubb, if people are desperate, these are guys that might end up getting dropped to make room for these other guys. I know for in a lot of my leagues that I have IR spots on that I have Brooks in, it was a consideration while I was in really big trouble at the position. And I didn't bring myself to do that because I know that if he was on waivers, I would pick him up. But people are in that position right now where their IRs are filled and they have 3 people on the IR on their bench that they need to be able to move there, and the luxury just isn't there. One other wide receiver I would throw out, which I don't know if this is my own bias that but Pearsall is probably coming back week 5. There's obviously room for people to succeed in that offense. I don't think that if you have an IR spot that is not being used, what I like to do is pick up an IR player, throw him there, and then pick up one of these lesser percentage owned and people who aren't going to be picked up, or somebody who was dropped on Wednesday. So fill those IR spots if you can. And that's one player then in a couple leagues that even in redraft that I've picked up just to put in my IR that I will drop if I need to, but he's coming back soon. And if you have a spot open, fill it up.
Yep.
I know.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'm not going to fault you. You have a love affair with that guy ever since.
He needs to work out, or I'm going to be depressed forever for trading away Jameson Williams and Coleman, who had another touchdown, or his first touchdown.
On 1 reception. I mean, let's calm down.
Was it only one? I
Yeah.
haven't been looking at him because I've been so sad about losing him. But yeah, I think he's not as good as the first week maybe shouted out.
He was actually on. I looked this up. I saw it. Coleman got 1 reception for 24 yards, happened to be a touchdown, but the only reason he didn't play more is because he was being punished because he needed to learn that he should be on time.
Oh. Aw. I like that guy. He needs to straighten out. His press. I want him to be a thing. His press conferences are amazing. He's a good kid. All right. Well, I think that's all I have. I don't have anybody else to call out here. Again, you can check out. We've had 2 episodes post today, and you can subscribe, but more importantly, throw us in the comments if you picked up any of these guys. Let us know how much you spent on it. Let us know who we left out, who you're going to be picking up, and we'll let you know if any of these trades that I just sent 8 or 9 of to Nate in our work league, and I'll let you know if he accepts any of those next week when we chat again. All right, Nate. It was good talking to you, man.
All right. Have fun, guys. Bye, everybody.
Now for Dad Dance.